Empire. It's Tua time in Miami, and Cameron Wolfe from ESPN is going to break the move down for us. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. You can read me at usatoday.com, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And yes, we're talking about the Miami Dolphins change from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Tua Tagovailoa. Their rookie quarterback, 5th overall pick, now will be their starting quarterback. And so Cameron Wolfe, who covers that team for ESPN, is going to join me as our guest. But first, I want to touch on something real quick because this just happened. We talked about this on Tuesday with Jeff Zrebiec about the Baltimore Ravens needing to make a move. And the move that we discussed, one of the moves, and something that Jeff really brought to light that made a lot of sense. The Ravens have just traded for Yannick Ngakoue of the Minnesota Vikings. Now they have that stud pass rusher to put opposite Matthew Judon, and with Calais Campbell anchoring it all in the middle, this defense, already the stingiest in the league, holding teams to 15 points a game, now they have a true elite pass rusher. It should help ease pressure on the offense even more. Yes, there's still questions with that offense, and the help around Lamar Jackson. But as far as the defense goes, Ngakoue should plug right in and really get after opposing quarterbacks and give this defense an even bigger boost than what they already had. So, very interesting. That just happened here. Late Thursday morning, the news came down, and we'll see how this plays out because it's something that, we said something was just a little bit off or just a little bit short, that they were needed to add just a little bit more. And as Jeff said, they don't like giving up a lot of high picks, but they found the asking price that they wanted between these two teams. They are giving a 3rd-round pick and a conditional 5th-round pick. 3rd round in 2021, conditional 5th-round pick in 2022. So the Vikings, they gave up a 2nd-round pick and then in a 3rd, and now, they get a little bit back. Not quite as much as what they wanted, but, at least they don't lose him for nothing because there was a chance they weren't going to be able to re-sign him. Now the Ravens get him. I think that's a great price, a 3rd and a conditional 5th for a guy that is a difference maker, pass rusher. So we'll see how that happens. But anyway, now we've got that out the way. Let's talk Tua with Cameron Wolfe.
Support for this podcast comes from AT&T. 5G from AT&T is fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. So, should you switch? Well, historically, those were the reasons new tech was adopted. Neanderthals saw that fire heated things fast and made their caves secure from rampaging woolly mammoths. The ancient Romans saw that the aqueducts were a reliable and fast way to transport water, so they stopped carrying water jugs on their backs and adopted them nationwide. Oh, and 1800s Victorians saw electricity light up rooms fast and be more reliable than candles blowing out, so they stopped bumping into walls and made it nationwide. Today's no different. Switching to AT&T 5G is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, historically speaking, it's smarter than candles, water pots, and hungry dinosaurs. AT&T 5G, it's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan, may not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
And now here we are with Cameron Wolfe. You guys, I'm sure, know who this dude is. You see that beautiful face on TV anytime there's something big going on with the Dolphins, anything big going on in Miami. ESPN NFL reporter, but he does, every once in a while, I'm sure, it's only a matter of time before, his star, I'm telling you, it's rising. He burst onto the scene with the Titans, and they said, oh, we need you in a hotter spot here. So now he's in Miami. I'm just happy that he took time out of his busy day to grace the Football Jones with his presence. Cameron, how
Hey,
you
checks
doing?
in the mail, OG. I appreciate you finding space for me in this lofty podcast. I'm happy. I can brace the stages in this presence.
Well, I know that when I need some insight on the Dolphins, who the authority on the beat is, and that's you. And so that's why I want to have you come in, because you guys got a little bit going on down there.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. They got off to a decent start here. You stomp a mud hole in the 49ers. You get another win here. You're 3-3 at the bye, and all of a sudden, it's Tua time. What is it like? What's the feel down there in Miami with this team, with this fan base?
Man, it is erupted seemingly overnight. I knew when they drafted Tua that he would be something unlike anything this team's seen probably since Dan Marino, just because of the star power. Maybe Ricky Williams is the other guy that you can compare just for the buzz, the name value. Before he even started playing a snap, Tua essentially was the face of South Florida sports. Once everybody was just waiting, it was a win, not if. And everybody was shocked by the timing of the move. I was shocked. But I think that the table will eventually turn to Tua and what he's able to do and what it means for this franchise. So I think you can't underestimate how big this is for this team. The biggest thing that I'm curious about is how he and the team handles all the pressure. Like you mentioned, they're in the playoff mix, and you got a rookie quarterback who's had all of two snaps since that devastating hip injury. So is he truly ready physically, mentally, and as a football player? Those are all things we're going to learn pretty soon. Before we were guessing, now we're going to actually see it, and everybody's going to see it. So that's a lot of pressure, but they believe in this dude. They drafted him 5th overall. They've seen him in Alabama handle the pressure, and they think he's ready for it. So if he is, then that's going to elevate the Dolphins as a team and as a blip on the NFL radar to the next level.
Yeah, how crazy is it? I mean, I keep on seeing that image of everybody happy as Tua's coming in. Ryan Fitzpatrick is like getting it up and everything like that. Well, that dude, like 2 days later, like he just got bumped down. What was, and he described, we'll talk about that a little bit, how surprised he was. What about other teammates? Were they surprised by this move as well?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people were surprised by the timing, and I think the thing that really, threw a wrench into this thing is that it was reported out. Adam Schefter reported it on Tuesday. The players actually didn't hear it from Brian Flores until Wednesday. So they spent a day hearing it on social media, getting texts from friends. Hey, Tua's a starter? They're like, what? Tua's a starter? So I think that creates a different element in the locker room. Now there's a bunch of buzz. I know Brian Flores was pissed. He was pissed about that. And honestly, it's on the team to be able to control the message. So as reporters, as you know, we're not going to sit on news. No. So I can't blame Shefty for he got a scoop from wherever and put it out there. That's his job. It's the Dolphins' job to figure out how to be able to mainstream the content. So either way, they've got to clean up that mess. I know Brian Flores apologized to the team about that on Wednesday, saying, hey, you guys should have heard from me. But the one interesting thing, and I talked to about 3 or 4 players about this week, is that they see it as a business. Although Fitz was really emotional and talked about how it blindsided, and a lot of teammates agreed with him, I think they knew that Tua's turn was going to come, and they're excited. They've seen him in practice. We haven't seen him fully in practice and training camp, but they've seen him, and they've told me he's improved every week. They talk about his deep bomb and his ability just to make those 1 or 2 wow highlight plays, every single day, every single week in practice. And the thing about Tua is we all know that he has a higher ceiling than Fitz. Mm-hmm. It's just when he reaches that. So if you're a team like the Dolphins who are thinking long-term, and they went through all the nasty rebuild stuff last year, they were getting laughed at, they were called the worst team in the league, you got to think a long-term view. And Tua is your long-term plan. So I think all these guys know if they're ever going to be a championship team, is going to be with Tua, not Fitz.
Now, how much of this had to do with the book on Fitzpatrick? Lots of times he'll have 4 or 5 games of Fitzmagic, and then it just really goes south. The bottom just drops out of nowhere. Did they feel like, okay, hey, we've been riding pretty good, and we know what his shelf life is, and it's time for us to make another move right now before it gets bad with him?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think I look at it twofold. One, if you could ever bottle Fitzmagic into, a full season, a full career, he would be a Hall of Famer, probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play, but you can't.
Yeah.
So you got to think long-term, like, hey, at some point, we know history, although Fitz is playing wonderful, and he is. He's 7th in NFL in passer rating, over 70% completion rating. He had been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL so far this season. But we've all ridden the roller coaster. And the Dolphins personnel staff in particular knows it, and they're the people who will have to look long-term. Brian Flores, his job is to have his team win now, every single game. So he doesn't really have the luxury of thinking long view. But the personnel staff, they have to look long view. And they're like, we can't bet it all on Fitz.
Right.
15 years teams have been trying to bet it all on Fitz, and it hasn't worked out.
Right.
So I think that's a part of it. And the other thing that I think maybe hasn't been discussed a lot in this process is the Dolphins initially had a Week 11 bye. And it got changed because of the coronavirus schedule. They didn't have any cases, but the Patriots and some other teams, and they got their bye week move up to Week 7. So I don't know if it was said or unsaid, but I think there was some belief that maybe that Week 11 period would have been the perfect time for a transition from Fitz to Tua. And now the bye gets moved up, and you say, hey, we've only got one bye. Yeah. So if this is the time, we've got to make this move. So it felt awkward, but maybe it was because of the scheduling. And you look at a situation where Tua got his feet wet previously in the game. He had been improving every week. And it's sad to say from the Fitz perspective, but for the Dolphins, this is all about Tua. It's not about Fitz, and they can't really worry about hurt feelings. If the plan for 2020 is to get Tua developed, to get him ready, then you got to put him in when he's ready. And even if it's when Fitz is in a high, which he is. So from that perspective, I understand. I was surprised by the timing, but if it's all about Tua and you feel like Tua's ready and this is the best time to enter him, then go pull the trigger.
Now, these guys, like you said, they're in a playoff mix. They want to win. What is their level of confidence and respect in Tua like from seeing him in these practices? And say this first game's a little rocky, will they start looking at Flores kind of like, wait, you just killed our momentum right there? Or is it of a level where they'll be understanding and it's going to be okay?
That's my big question, because the whole premise of the Dolphins and the Fitz to a transition is that they figure whenever it happens, it's going to be smooth. Fitz is going to be like, all hail Tua, and, you guys are ready. This is my favorite quarterback. And I think all of us thought that too, but I think Fitz was under assumption that he would get a chance to lose the job, and he didn't. So now you wonder, how is that transition going to be? Is it going to be awkward? And Fitz talked about it a little bit before, where at some point he has to compartmentalize and be that mentor and be that cheerleader in the locker room, because he's been around the league so much and he knows how much that feel is. If there's contention between quarterbacks in the locker room, the locker room's going to feel it, and they're going to pick sides. You're going to have some Fitz guys, you're going to have some Tua guys. When Tua's down, everybody's going to be like, oh, we should have stuck with Fitz. We should have did that. And that's not what you want. If I think back to the Philly era with Donovan and T.O., when they had their beef and people were picking sides. So you definitely don't want that. So I think the most important thing for the Dolphins for this bye week is for Fitz to cool off, for him to maybe have a meeting or say something in front of the team and say, hey, I was really upset by this move, but I'm all in on Tua. And this is what is best for the team. This is what I'm going to do. And I hope you guys all follow with him, because he's the most beloved dude in that locker room. He's a leader of their team. And if he says it, then I don't think there'll be any issue. But what I expect is, I don't expect from week one Tua's going to come in and replicate what Fitz was doing immediately. I think you might see a step back from the offense initially. I think Tua will eventually catch up and surpass what Fitz is doing, but this is a guy, like I mentioned, who hasn't played those snaps yet. He doesn't have the comfort in the offense, Chan Gailey's offense, that Fitz has playing with him for 5+ years. So you have to be prepared for Tua to lose a couple games, for the offense not to look as great, and for you not to be second guessing. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on. And if it doesn't go great, then that's something where Brian Flores, he's going to really have to pull his britches up and figure out how to get these guys back on the order.
Now, you mentioned Chan Gailey. He obviously has got a history of being creative with quarterbacks. Back all those years ago in Pittsburgh with Cordell Stewart. How much more of the offense, the playbook, will he be able to open up because of what Tua gives you as a running quarterback? Or are they, are we going to see kind of like a Kyler Murray type of offense? Or is this, or more like kind of Baltimore's offense? What do you expect them to do? Or is it this is their offense, but Tua, when things break down, he'll kind of bring that extra element?
Yeah, I think initially it will be similar to what they were doing and then more of a Tua package. And then maybe the Tua package will evolve into more of the traditional offense as time goes on. The one thing I think fans should know is that most of the season, pretty much all the season, Fitz was taking pretty much all the reps in practice. So it wasn't like they were splitting half and half first team reps and there's a Tua package and a Fitz package. No, they were all in on Fitz and this is his team. So I think they're going to have to build that Tua package and feel like what he's comfortable with. And here's the thing that we know. He was really good at RPOs in college.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good quick route, timing-based passer. And we know that he has a very good sense of vertical routes. So I think those three things will be the base of what you see Tua doing initially. A lot of RPOs, a lot of trying to get misdirections, one-on-one situations, and then timing. And like I said, those deep bombs, he's got two receivers in Devontae Parker and Preston Williams who are 6'3 plus, and those are guys who are great to do those go routes. So I think that'll be the essential part of the Dolphins offense. The one thing that people probably should recognize, he's obviously a mobile quarterback, but coming off that injury, I don't expect him to be unleashed like Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson because, your worst thing that can happen is, he gets hurt. So I think you'll see them be very protective, run a lot of screens, quick passes, things to get him comfortable and get the offense flowing rather than unleash his full package.
Now, how much of this, like you said, they're coming into a tough stretch of their season. No, they got the Rams and they come back. What do they have next several weeks after that?
They have the Cardinals, and then they have the Broncos. They have the Jets again, and then they have the Chargers. So I think that's the rest of their schedule this year.
So that's not so bad. If you can get past the Rams with Aaron Donald and those guys, then you've got some winnable games. How much of this was from the fact that, okay, we're going to make this change right now because the Rams are tough, but they don't have anything off of Tua to prepare for? Will that help them at all? The fact that, we saw two passes, two plays. It's just going to all of a sudden – now, unfortunately, they're going to have 2 weeks to study up on what Tua, did well at Alabama. I imagine they'll be watching his college film and look at Chan Gailey's packages with mobile quarterbacks, before here and things like that. But how do you think that unpredictability will help them?
I think it's definitely going to be a big impact. I think the surprise element, both for us and for opposing teams, played a factor in this. You look at this. So the November schedule, like we mentioned, is probably the most favorable part of their schedule. When you get into December, you got to play the Chiefs, you got to play the Patriots, you got to play the Bills. These are teams that are going to make the playoffs and be contenders. So if you decided that Tua is going to play in 2020, I'd rather see him get his feet wet against the Cardinals, Broncos, Jets, and Chargers than the teams in December. So I think you look at that, and that's probably the element of it. I always circled 2021 as the year for the Dolphins, whether it was Tua or Fitz for most of the year. I don't think they're a team that was legitimate, contender to win a division or make a playoff run. They might sneak in as a wild card if things all go break right. But I think 2021, given they've got a really young offensive line, a really young core, is a year you circle. So if everything's building up to that, then this is the year where you see him get comfortable, learn, get that experience, especially in a playoff mix where these games actually matter. You get him to feel that. So I think that played a large factor in it. Like you mentioned, teams don't have that scouting report on Tua, so they don't know. And, people call Chan Gailey a dinosaur when he got hired because he was retired for a while. But I've actually been impressed over the last, 3 or 4 weeks on sort of how innovative he's been. I've seen some pistol he's been running. He's been running a little RPO action. This is with a 37-year-old Ryan Fitzpatrick. Imagine what you can do with a Tua back there. So I'm eager to see, how that evolves. And, I think both of those guys, Tua and Chan, will get more comfortable with each other as time goes on. And you start to see, those fruits of that offense. And you could see something special by the time the end of the year comes.
I know during the regular season, you don't get to see a lot of practice. For everybody out there, practice is open. You see them taking positional drills. So a quarterback throwing to the wide receiver, quarterback handing off. We don't really see the team drills, the wide receivers, working with them. But during training camp, did you get to see any glimpses, anything that really stood out to you about Tua in this type of offense and on this level?
Absolutely, absolutely. There was actually this one Monday or Tuesday practice that I remember, and I remember it vividly because for most of camp, Ryan Fitzpatrick was out playing Tua, and that was something I was trying to stress to people. Everybody was like, "Tua week 1." I'm like, "Fitz looks better," But there was one practice in particular where Tua had his best day, and he was showing you everything that you could expect from Alabama. He was rolling out of the pocket. He even scrambled a few times. He was hitting those timing routes. He had Devontae Parker with about 3 go touchdowns that day. Preston Williams caught a couple. And I'm like, wow, this is the glimpse of the dude that we saw at Alabama. We saw win a national title. And I think this guy can lead the Dolphins to a Super Bowl. I walk out of that practice saying, hey, if we get that bottled for 16 games, that the Dolphins can be really special. The issue was consistency with him, and that's always it for a rookie quarterback. But yes, to answer your question, that day I walked away and say, this guy, that's the day that sold me that he was healthy and that he could really be something special at the NFL level. So I think if Dolphins fans and NFL fans see that version of Tua that I saw on that day, their eyes are going to be popping out of their head because it was special. And one other thing I want to say about the practice element, and this is something that we didn't see. I talked to Jerome Baker this week, and he told a story that I think should even sell Dolphins fans even more. He talked about a really rough day that Tua had at practice, and this was something that we didn't see during the actual regular season. And he said they were throwing everything at him, blitz patterns. It was pick on the rookie day, essentially. And Tua did not have a great day. And he said usually you expect guys to kind of be in the dumps, go slumping back into the locker room and figure out what went wrong. He said the first thing Tua did was went up to him and Bobby McCain, one of their veteran safeties, and say, how can I be better? I said, you guys got me today. How can I be better? What can I do? What you guys see on me that led you to guys take advantage of me? And he said that opened his eyes because this is a guy that's willing to embrace his flaws and, approach defensive players, guys who, are much older than him, and be humble and say, hey, y'all got me today. What did y'all do so that the other team can't do it? And I think that's something that, the really great ones have a knack of doing, saying that, hey, I know I can improve no matter where I am. So those things give me promise that, Tua, whether it's some point this year or if it's not till next year, is going to end up being the quarterback that the Dolphins drafted him to be.
I was just about to say that, man, that takes an incredible amount of humility and maturity, because as a young guy, you want to give off the impression to these veterans they have got it figured out, so that way they'll want to follow you. But going about it that way, you definitely earn respect. And we've talked to him. We had him on the podcast before the draft. Definitely a humble guy. Really be interesting to see here. For you, lastly, what are realistic expectations? Because obviously he's a rookie. He's going to make some wild plays. He's going to have some stinkers. What should Dolphins fans expect from Tua and from this team over the next 11 weeks of this season?
Yeah, no, you said the exact word that I would hope: realistic. I think that's the thing that people expectations have got out of control here, which I think should be expected. You get drafted 5th overall, you've got the profile of Tua. Expectations and pressure should be high, but he's not going to look like the second coming of Dan Marino just immediately. Maybe eventually, but immediately, I don't think Dolphins fans, NFL fans should see him, come up, light it up, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, perfect passer rate in his first game. I just don't see that happening yet. I think you have to realize that it's evolving for Tua as his comfort in his own health. Although he's 100%, this is a guy who hasn't played a full game yet. So he's got to have comfort in his own right, in his mental right, before he gets to the perspective of where he was again. And then from the football perspective, he's got to gather the offense. So I think you're going to see a better Tua in December than you'll see in November. Like I said initially, I think that they may take a step back initially on offense. So I think the best case scenario for the Dolphins is you make a playoff run and you get a playoff bid. Not a win, a playoff bid. That's best case scenario. You go on a run. Maybe they got 10 games left. You go 6-4 the rest of the way, get 9-7, or 5-5 the rest of the way, get 8-8, and get that last 7th playoff spot. You get some playoff experience, and then you enter 2021 on a high note, saying, we went from the laughingstock of the league to a playoff team in 1 year. I think the more realistic basis is you have him in the playoff hunt in December, where he's playing meaningful games all through the year, where you're not thinking about the draft in late November. You're thinking about, hey, what are my probabilities to make the playoffs? I might need this team to lose, but I got a chance. I think that's probably what Dolphins fans should look for him being competitive, him making a few highlight plays a game where you know you got the guy. It might not be consistent, but you're going to see those plays. I think that's what you should really get a grasp for, and how he gains control of the offense. That's what I'm really looking for. We talked about Fitz earlier in this pod, and he's a guy who he's been in the league for 16 years because of his intangibles. Guys love playing with him. His energy, his knack of making plays, giving up his body, those sort of things makes him beloved. I want to see some of that for Tua. I want to see him make a third down run where he made things difficult and made it up, gets up and gets pumped up with his teammates. Make a fourth quarter rally where he gets the team together and say, hey, we're going to win the game, and do it. These are things that I think are milestones for a rookie quarterback, where you demand the team and you say, this is my team. So those are things that I would love to see from him. And that, to me, is more important than amount of wins for them, at least in 2020. And then in 2021, go for the division title.
Gotcha. Good deal. All right, Cameron, I know you were incredibly busy, new father, all the TV commitments and everything like that, howling with the wolf. Segment he does there, Q&As and things. But before you go, tell everybody where they can find all your great work.
Yeah, appreciate you. Now I hear the baby crying right now, so I gotta go out there and play dad a little bit. But yeah, man, appreciate you having me, Mike. People can follow me on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe, E at the end of Wolf. I put content up there, ESPN.com. Occasionally, they let me on TV if they feel like it, and I go on NFL Live or SportsCenter and rap a little bit about the Dolphins and NFL. And like you mentioned, every Thursday I do a Howling with the Wolf segment, which is just kind of me, casual, rapping with football fans and Dolphins fans about whatever y'all want to know. So that's the way I want to, end it. And hopefully one day I'll get on your level, Mike Jones, and I'll have my own podcast.
Whatever. You're already past me, but hey, I really appreciate you having on here. Hopefully one of these days I will see you soon, and take care of the family. And we'll be watching Tua and checking out your work to follow along.
Absolutely, man. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you. All right, hope you guys have a great day. It's really going to be interesting. I'm really kind of bummed that Tua is not going to be on the field this Sunday because they have a bye. I really wish that we could see it. I'm excited and intrigued, and like Cameron said, we need to be realistic. Can't expect that he's going to set the world on fire right out of the gates. Think he's going to be talented. Think it's going to be entertaining. But we got to wait another week before we see this happen. But the news, big story of the week in the NFL and for the Miami Dolphins. And so that's why we broke it down. Hope you guys have a great week and a good football Sunday. We'll be back Monday to break it all down. Once again, you can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. Do me a favor, take this podcast link, send it to a couple friends, tell them about it, and get them on board subscribing. And we'll keep on rolling from there.